name, in ever-changing words of light, the wonder of thy name.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Haven't been able to say that to you in person yet since the new year has come upon us. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we like to say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to everyone. We're glad to have all of you here with us this morning. We begin by embracing all that you bring with you to this space, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes those of you who are in the room with us, whether you're here often or joining us for the first time. It also includes the many of you who are live streaming with us this morning as well. We're always glad to have you as part of our services as well. So thanks to everyone for being here. I want to begin on a sad note. We have our Unity candle lit at the front of our sanctuary, which is something we do when one of our members has passed away since the last time we met. And I want to inform you now that, if you've not heard, that Rosemary Belays passed away on December 17th. She was 91 years old. I know a lot of you remember Rosemary. She and her husband, Spokane's famous artist, Harold Belays, who passed away in 2017, were longtime members and contributors to this community in some of the most beautiful ways through the gift of art. And you see Harold's art when you walk in our doors and see those incredibly designed doorways as well as other structures throughout the facility. So they will long be remembered, and we light this candle today throughout our service in honor of Rosemary's light and life in this community and in our world. Also want to let you know of a special opportunity coming up next Sunday. It is a balance class that is being sponsored by our pastoral care team. That's going to be next Sunday the 15th at 12:30. It's going to take place in our chapel. There are, I think, the class is limited to 12. 4 spots have already been taken, so you can sign up on that Sunday, but you may want to let us know in advance if you're interested in it. The class is going to be presented by the staff members from the Aging and Long-Term Care of Eastern Washington, and it is designed really to help reduce falling and help reduce the fear of falling, to increase activity levels for adults who may have some concerns about falling if they're too active, as well as those interested in improving flexibility and balance and strength. So as the note here says, what a great New Year's resolution to give yourself, that you're going to become more well-balanced in the world. So yeah, please remember that'll be next Sunday, and you can sign up then as long as there's room available, but do let us know in advance or contact a member of our pastoral care team. So thanks to them for doing this. All right, let's take a few moments now to greet one another. Say hi to those that you know and look forward to seeing each Sunday, and maybe you'll make some new friends today. If you are visiting us, we're very glad you're here, so extend a hand and we'll be glad to receive you. All right, you act like you haven't seen each other since last year. Well, there'll be more time, as always, to visit during our social hour after the service, so please stay around for that. If you're visiting with us and you don't know, you'll find coffee and tea on that end of the friendship area behind the sanctuary. But now we're going to move forward by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
For this 1 hour, Spirit of life, we let go. For this 1 hour, may we let go of our anxieties, our fears, our angers, our self-doubts, our regrets and our petty grievances, and our distractions. If only for this 1 hour, let the flame of our chalice burn them from our hearts and minds and light our way to peace and serenity for this 1 hour.
Well, our first in-service hymn this morning actually is a little treatise on the nature of time. So please rise as you're willing and able to sing the ceaseless flow of endless time. The ceaseless flow of endless time
shall be your New Year vow.
It is unlikely that you will hear a music director in any other church but a Unitarian church get up and say, "We are now going to sing a treatise on the nature of time."
We are unique.
We are unique. Well, we are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. I have not received any specific requests, but begin as we have for what is going on a year now with a candle on behalf of the people of Ukraine and that region of the world that are being impacted by the unnecessary war and violence going on there. And I want to be sure to say today that I include in that the people of Russia themselves, Russians who are being deceived about what's happening through state media, and Russians who are being killed, Russian children. I'm old enough to call soldiers children. So when I hear these reports, like I've heard the past couple of weeks, of 400 here and 600 there being killed in one event, my heart grieves. A lot of victims of this, and it's unnecessary, and this is the 21st century, and we should be past this. So that's another sermon. But let's take a moment now of silence on behalf of others, that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And by the way, I loved that entryway, and the leader of the band with your boots on. Can I see those boots? Those are the coolest boots. Walk up here. Would you mind walking up here? Everybody quiet and listen to this. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I loved hearing you walk in. It made my day. Well, we are now going to gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world. think most of you caught the name of that tune, Popsicle Toes, very, very fitting. So we are not, in lieu of actually a time for all ages, we're going to have a new member ceremony, but I have to say, the boots were a wonderful children's moment to hear. I hope I'm not embarrassing you. But we just went into a moment of silence, and you came in, those wonderful boots were marching across the floor. It's just perfect. It reminded me of when we were young, and our son was very young. We lived in the upstairs of a duplex, and his papa had given him some cowboy boots, and he'd put those boots on and walk across those hardwood floors, and our neighbors would get upset. So we had to temper his enthusiasm. And when we moved in not too long after to our first home, we told him he could wear those boots and stomp all over the house, and he did. So I think that children should be allowed to stomp and walk forward with enthusiasm through life. So thank you for modeling that as our story for all ages today. But what we are going to do is have a new member welcome ceremony. So if you are one of the new members on our list, or if you recently signed the book and didn't quite make the list, please come forward. Bring the blue sheet from your order of service, if you will. That will be helpful. Yeah, just come forward. Maybe stand off here to the left of the candle in kind of the front of the church. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Todd's busy. He'll get it for us. Check. Testing 1, 2, 3. There we really have to kiss this thing. Okay. I feel like Mick Jagger. So we're going to let you folks introduce yourselves in just a second, but I wanted to point out the entire list of new members in your order of service on the front cover of the blue sheet. So we've had quite a few folks join us. And if you're interested in joining our congregation, just let me know or somebody know, and we'll tell you what the rather simple process is for that. But right now we're going to officially begin our new member ceremony, and you want me to hold the mic up, or do you want to hold it yourself?
Is this okay? Okay. We are honored that you have chosen to become members of our church, having found a connection with Unitarian Universalism and expressed your commitment to this community. Membership at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane is both a privilege and a responsibility. It's a place we hope you will feel safe to explore your own path, yet feel a sense of belonging and support. We look forward to our work together in fulfilling the mission of our church and to the many gifts and support you bring to us.
You have signed our membership book. I don't have to read this part. You have signed our membership book as a symbol of your place among us. As we now welcome you individually, we seal this covenant with a rose, symbolizing our hope that you will fully bloom in your new church home. And it just so happens to be a yellow rose, which is not only of Texas, but a symbol of friendship. Hopefully you will develop many friendships here in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. And then I'm going to let you introduce yourself so folks can put a face with the name.
Okay. I'm Samantha Sly.
Anything else?
I have a little 2.5-year-old who caused some delays again this morning. So you'll probably meet Athena at some point as well.
Wonderful. Well, delays are welcome, and we're glad you made it.
I'm Sarah Darcy, and I did not have any delays because I have a 12 and 14-year-old, and they were both sound asleep. So that's why they are not here. And my husband travels a lot, but I do have a family that you'll see every now and again.
Wonderful to have you, too. We're honored to have you. And let's see, I don't believe we've met before, sir.
I'm Justin Bell. I've been attending for 15 years. I guess I'm just slow to make decisions.
Welcome. I've been waiting to say that to you for at least 12 of those years. So, all right, and you didn't make our list in time, but you've been with us for a while, and you signed our book just this morning.
Right. Kay McDonald, and I live between here and Issaquah, so I take advantage of the Zoom meetings as well as in person, and I love it when I'm here.
Welcome. Very glad to have you. There's thorns. Be careful. Uh-oh. That's the other part of the rose, isn't it? So there may be a few thorns around here, but now I'm going to invite the congregation to turn to number 442, sorry, in the back of your gray hymnal. Would you open that to 442? And this is, oh, wait a minute. While you're turning to that, actually, I've got to give this to Sue. I messed up, Sue. You've got a piece, too. You give it to me, and then while the congregation is turning, they'll be ready. But first, I'm going to hand this back to Sue.
I'm going to ask that the new members join me on your blue form, where it has new members, and recite along with me. We embrace membership in this church as both a gift and a commitment. May your strands of connection grow ever stronger day by day and year by year as we join with you in creating a nourishing community and a more just world.
Thank you. And now all you have to do here is listen to the congregation's welcome to you. So if you would read with me as a congregation in response to "We bid you welcome," I'll begin and ask the congregation to be our respondents. We bid you welcome who come with weary spirit seeking rest,
who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid,
We bid you welcome who come with hope in your heart,
who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous,
We bid you welcome who are seekers of a new faith,
who come to probe and explore, who come to learn,
We bid you welcome who enter into this hall as a homecoming,
who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this family a family.
Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey,
We bid you welcome.
And you may now take your place among us. Thank you.
Do we want to sing children out?
Oh, yeah, why don't
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Let's do that
Good
quick.
idea.
Yeah. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you. As we move into a time of meditation, find a comfortable position. You can put your feet on the floor, close your eyes if you wish. Take a deep breath in, breathe out. And let us open our minds to the challenge of reason. Open our hearts to the healing of love. Open our lives to the calling of conscience. Open our souls to the comfort of joy.
For my reading today, I'm actually going to read kind of a preface or preamble to today's sermon, which is not my sermon. It's a sermon of another minister, so Reverend John H. Dietrich. So Reverend Dietrich, who lived from 1878 until 1957, was the minister of our Spokane church from 1911 to 1916. He came to us from Pennsylvania immediately after being condemned as a heretic by the Dutch Reformed Church, the first and only of its ministers to have this distinction. It was here that Dietrich first began calling himself a humanist, and afterward went on to become an original signer of the Humanist Manifesto, to establish the Humanist Pulpit at the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he was minister from 1918 until his retirement in 1936, and to be forever recognized as the Father of Religious Humanism. Although our gratitude should rightfully go to our brothers and sisters at the First Unitarian Society for heralding Dietrich's liberal message and preserving the bulk of his sermons and writings, it is also fair to say it was in Spokane that he found the freedom to find himself and where religious humanism was born. Today, our religion and our world needs John Dietrich's liberal message more than ever, along with his deep and unapologetic commitment to establishing a more liberal and therefore better, freer, and more dignified society and world. This is why I'm endeavoring to bring his voice back into the pulpit from time to time, beginning with today's sermon, What is a Liberal? Preparing it has been a delightful but not simple task. Dietrich's sermons were nearly hour-long lectures with 10-page or more manuscripts, so I want you to prepare yourself. We do have lunch in the back. No. Mine are usually about 25 minutes, which people think are too long, probably are, with about 5.5 pages transcripts. So I've had to omit much of what he originally said, most of which consist of some of the examples that he used to make his points, but never the points themselves. Although I've dramatically reduced their length, the wording remains 90% his own, probably more than 90% his own, although I've made subtle changes to say some important things in fewer words, or to make better sense for us today, or to make his traditional use of pronouns more inclusive. And I'm extremely excited about presenting this century-old sermon today because I agree with its content. I could have written it myself and deeply believe it is a message we need even more now than when it was given by John Dietrich himself. Maura, thank you so much. The question I have chosen for my subject this morning, what is a liberal, will indicate to you at once that I have in mind the problem of what constitutes the essential character of a liberal. I imagine most here this morning would consider themselves liberal. We speak of this as a liberal religion. But what are the common qualities we share that make us liberal, and how completely do we measure up to these qualities? In short, what does the term liberal mean, and when is a person rightly regarded as liberal? In speaking of the term, I find it difficult to define just what we mean by liberalism. It is one of those sweeping generalizations of our common speech, just as conservatism is, which serve as molds in which our thought becomes hardened. And this is very unfortunate because such terms seize hastily on the salient and striking features of things. We should therefore be careful not to fall under the tyranny of catchwords and popular classifications. For instance, in simplistic terms, people are either good or bad. Things are either black or white, whereas to the discerning world, there are seldom either good or bad, but are rather subtle mixtures of the two qualities in varied proportions of light and shade. And among those popular classifications which so obscure important distinctions is that of conservative and liberal. These names conceal almost as much as they reveal. By the conservative is generally understood one who is wedded to things as they are and is skeptical of change. By the liberal, one who is eager for any change that seems to make for progress. This is perhaps as good a distinction as we can make, and yet these interpretations are vague and undiscriminating. There are many types of both conservatives and liberals, good and bad types of each. Among the former, we may note the first, the conservatism of selfishness, which fears change because it may endanger vested interest or personal conveniences. Here we find those who desire to keep things as they are for their own personal benefit and oppose change of any kind because change would deprive them of certain things which they enjoy. Then there is the conservatism of inertia and indifference, which, moving contentedly along in the large tracks and ruts of custom, results in what it terms agitating of the reformer, and is uncomfortably disturbed by any ruffling of the surface of settled life by the stir of new ideas. We have again the conservatism of disenchantment, which has resigned itself to the second best as the only attainable thing for mankind, which feels that the ideals of progressives are unattainable and utopian, and therefore is sustained with what it calls the practical. Finally, we have a more normal and wholesome conservatism, which is sentimental and has its basis in a loving attachment and deep veneration for familiar things and places, persons and institutions and customs. One sees its strength and the reverence for the greatness that is deep-rooted in the past and has stood the shocks of time. In like manner, we may distinguish many types of liberalism. It too has an ignoble type in selfish liberalism, which hopes to glean its harvest from improvements. Here are found people who desire change because change would be an advantage to them, just as it would be a disadvantage to others. Then there is the liberalism of unrest, which springs from a dramatic love of change, joined often with a dramatic thirst for applause. It is a sort of wanderlust in politics and religion. It is a certain nervous discontent with things as they are and desires change regardless of whether or not that change is for the better or for the worse. We have, too, the liberalism of optimism. This liberalism that This is liberalism that makes exaggerated claims on behalf of humanity and stakes the whole cause on one particular reform. According to this view, humanity has been through the centuries the victim of unjust laws and institutions and might be utopian tomorrow were only the clutches of a vampire minority, the privileged class, relaxed. And this type of liberalism usually has its one patent nostrum, its one universal cure-all, by which humanity may thus be freed. And I wrote a little footnote here to that. This is the type of liberalism that dominates the current moment. An illiberalism that is useless in the world and set only upon the deliberate destruction of its own institutions and liberalism itself. And I'm going to read that, class, for you one more time. The liberalism of optimism. This is liberalism that makes exaggerated claims on behalf of humanity and stakes the whole cause on one particular reform. According to this view, humanity has been through the centuries the victim of unjust laws and institutions and might realize utopia tomorrow were only the clutches of a vampire minority, the privileged class, relaxed. And this type of liberalism usually has its one patent nostrum, its one universal cure-all by which humanity may thus be freed. Lastly, we have that saner liberalism, which, while leaning decisively to the side of hope, tempers that hope with a recognition of the fact that humankind, instead of having fallen away from some high estate, has been moving upward, working out the brute, and is slowly but surely coming to its deserts. It differs from conservatism because, while it recognizes the steady march of human progress, it declines to set a limit to the rate at which progress may hereafter be achieved. It believes in the transforming power of great ideas and in the possibility of lifting humanity as upon some great wave of enthusiasm to unexpected levels. But these are abstract types rather than flesh and blood realities. In most of us, conservative and liberal tendencies are subtly intermingled. Although the one or the other of them usually predominates, sometimes a person is liberal in political and conservative in religion. I have known political radicals who were ardent Roman Catholics and devoted Presbyterians on the one hand, but on the other, I have known Unitarians and rationalists of the most radical type who in economics and politics refuse to accept change. And yet we know that it was the great movement of liberalism which constituted the main glory of the 19th century, the 1800s. The marvelous period of intellectual and social and religious awakening in England, and a similar period in America, when that group of New England Unitarians dominated and enlightened the intellectual and spiritual life of this country. In France, it brought the Second Republic, the literary revolt of Romanticist Victor Hugo and the socialist dreams of philosopher Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. In Italy and Hungary, it led to the democratic revolutionary movements identified with the names of Mazzini and Kossuth. In Germany, it precipitated the revolution of 1848. In Russia, it expressed itself in such literary geniuses as Tolstoy and Turgenev, and in such political revolutionists as Tchaikovsky and Kropotkin. Everywhere this new spirit was at work, sometimes peacefully and sometimes violent, but always it was directed in the destruction of old tyranny and the establishment of new freedom. Now, it is this great movement which we have in mind when we speak of liberalism, and the mental qualities behind this movement when we speak of what we call the liberal spirit. It was the awakening of the best minds everywhere to the need of a better world and a consecration of their minds to the achievement of it at any cost. And it was the movement of liberalism which marks the 19th century is the most remarkable period in human history, and I'm going to give a sermon on why that's true coming up. In fact, the 19th century did more to add to the sum total of human life than all the other centuries of the Christian era put together. As German philosopher Heinrich Treitschke once said, everything new that the 19th century created is the work of liberalism. Right? Because the 17th century was when the Enlightenment occurred, and people were freed to explore and use science and abstract thinking. We created, we invented, we made progress. It is no doubt, this by the way is this will be an astonishing sentence to anyone of our time, particularly liberals, but anyone of our time, of our day. This was written in the 1920s, okay? It is no doubt, because the world has come to recognize this fact, that we honor the term and like to be called liberals. There is an occasional person who glories in his conservatism, but the majority of people are proudest when they are recognized as liberals. We've let them get away with turning it into a bad word. And we've got to reclaim it, and we've got to reclaim the principles of freedom and reason and tolerance and universalism, that is our common humanity, that it is founded upon and says should be the basis for any society or any proper relationship. But that's another sermon. Back to Dietrich. All this now brings me to the inquiry as to how many of us who lay claim to the name of liberal live in accordance with the ideals which are involved in this great name. You would be surprised at the number of kinds of people who call themselves liberal. I was asked some years ago to give a course of lectures out in the state of Washington in some small town about 100 miles from Spokane, the city in which I was then located. I was told there were many liberals in this town interested in hearing more about liberal religion. Well, all the liberals came, and when I stepped up upon the platform, I faced the most assorted collection of people I have ever seen. Among them were believers in every school of religious opinion, as well as unbelievers in any religion whatsoever, old and new style Unitarians, mildly or liberal, Orthodox, spiritualists, Christian Scientists, Quakers, Theosophists, Swedenborgians, and many forms of individual eccentricity. There were also free thinkers of every possible opinion, agnostics, indifferentists, skeptics, atheists, secularists, and many others. A single light, I was reminded, attracts all the bugs in town. There was every possible degree and shade of culture and intelligence. There were those of the highest intelligence, broadest views, and most inclusive sympathies, and others of the densest ignorance, the narrowest prejudices, the crudest opinions, and the most bigoted and scornful tempers. Wildly as they differed from each other, fiercely as they antagonized each other's beliefs, they all alike claimed to be liberal, and would have been grossly insulted if their liberalism had been questioned. I have spoken of this incident to illustrate the point that there is nothing more difficult to define than this thing which we call liberalism. It has no creed and no organization. Its most notable proponents and members are of different churches, political parties, and social classes. Yet there is no other words that can be used in its stead. Some try to use the word radical, but it implies someone who holds extreme views and advocates for extreme measures, or as the dictionary says, one who carries theories to unqualified conclusions. So while I take great pride in being a liberal, I would take no pride in being a radical. The important thing is not to be radical, but to be right. And there are times when it is right to be radical, and times when it is wrong to be radical. But I cannot conceive of any time when it is not right to be liberal. For liberalism is a mindset. It is an atmosphere, a point of view, a spirit. As the British statesman Lord John Morley says, liberalism is a marked way of looking at things, feeling them, handling them, judging them. William Ellery Channing, the great Unitarian preacher of the 19th century, said that liberalism was moved by the dignity of human nature. What he meant was that liberalism looks upon human life as the one thing that really counts in the universe. And it judges every institution, the state, the church, the school, the corporation, the labor union, in light of whether or not it liberates and dignifies human lives. If it does, then the liberal supports and protects it. But if any particular institution weakens or degrades or enslaves or impoverishes life, then the liberal condemns and destroys it. Life is the one thing that counts in the mind of the liberal, not the state, not the church, not the school, but human life itself. This explains why liberal movements in all countries and in every age have always been identified with religious reformations, political revolutions, and social reforms. To give the slave his freedom, the serf his land, the woman her rights, the laborer his product, the child its childhood, and the individual one's right to religious conviction. This has been the work of liberalism from the beginning, and all because each individual, weighed down by social or religious or political tyranny, represented human life and therefore was entitled to the boon of liberty. With this conception of liberalism clearly in mind, we are now ready to consider the typical marks and qualities of the liberal mind. For liberalism is not about what beliefs we hold, but about how we hold them. Firstly, the liberal must have a free mind. Absolutely free. Free from prejudice, free from fear, free from interest of any kind. The liberal, above all else, must be both the exponent and the champion of the ideal of freedom, demanding freedom of expression for oneself and help guarantee it for others. It is this idea of freedom, that others, no matter how much they differ from us in opinion and way of life, are nevertheless entitled to every liberty which has ever constituted the noblest attributes of the liberal spirit. Secondly, a liberal must always have an open mind, absolutely free from bigotry in its every form, and be ready to hear and consider sincerely any idea which may come up. This is especially true of new ideas, even though these ideas may seem to involve the destruction of everything that has hitherto been regarded as true and sacred. The liberal will not run away from such ideas, or will close one's ears against them. However dangerous or strange they may appear, the liberal will listen to them with sympathy, study them diligently, and reject them only if successfully demonstrating their futility after careful investigation. The liberal will not accept an idea as true just because it is new, nor reject it just because it is new. The liberal will follow the injunction of Paul to prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. And this is the second mark of the liberal spirit, yet a majority of people have some subjects to which they practically close their minds, some forbidden questions that cannot be asked. I have in mind a very remarkable man in a Unitarian church where I once served. I think he was talking about here, because he only served in two. And he is typical of a great many Unitarians, in the East especially, so he let us off the hook there. In all matters pertaining to philosophy and religion, he was liberal in the extreme. He was a splendid example of the open mind when the latest speculation of philosophy, the newest surmise of biblical criticism, the most recent and extravagant idea of God were brought to his mind. But the moment any question of social or economic reform was brought to his attention, he closed his mind like a steel trap. And how many hundreds of people of this kind we find in Unitarian churches? If there was ever a time when we needed social reform, new economic ideas, new international relations, it's now. And yet I know many who are real liberals in religion, but close their minds to these questions, just as they would close the doors against a plague. So again, the second mark of the liberal is the genuinely open mind. The third mark of the liberal is the broad mind, the understanding mind, the sympathetic mind. The true liberal does not treat anything with contempt or scorn, but seeks rather to understand others, no matter how alien they are to one's habits, their own habits, or how dangerous apparently to one's own interest. Or how dangerous apparently to one's own interest. To understand their ideas and ideals, their miseries and desires, their ambitions, their virtues, which they always have, and their vices, which they usually have. Instead of ridiculing others because of certain beliefs and actions, a liberal seeks to understand them, to get their point of view, to feel their woes and to understand their hopes. In seeking to understand others, the liberal does not necessarily accept their ideas or approve their methods or feel compelled to help them satisfy their goals. The liberal may feel they are mistaken in their aims and dangerous in their ways, but holds that it is one's primary duty to understand others is the best way to resolve our differences. Before the liberal has any right to judge another, and certainly before there is any right to condemn or punish another, we must truly know them. And this understanding or sympathetic mind is another mark of liberalism. Another mark of liberalism is the inquiring and thoroughgoing mind. The mind which will not be content with any sham, nor with any half-truths, but which will be satisfied with nothing less than the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The liberal must be, in its original sense, a radical. That is, a root man or a root person, one who tries to trace all things to their roots, their origin, their foundation, and so be thoroughgoing and sure as possible of one's knowledge and one's opinions. The liberal will not be content with another individual's nor an institution's theory of things, but will find out for oneself whether or not certain things are true. And never will one presume to form an opinion, much less express an opinion, without having carefully collected all the facts and sifted the evidence. Wouldn't that be a wonderful world? The true liberal insists upon seeing things as they really are and not as one has been told by others to imagine them to be. Another qualification of the liberal mind is sincerity honesty, and naturalness. The true liberal is always free from pretense and hypocrisy and will never pretend to believe something that one does not believe. For instance, I have in mind a man who remains in the Orthodox Church even though he no longer believes in the doctrine of that church. He once said to me, "You know, Mr. Dietrich, I am just as liberal in my religious views as you are. I stand practically on the same ground. But I remain in this church because of the good I can do through an institution of this kind. It puts me in a difficult intellectual situation, but I think this is justified by the results I get." Well, all I have to say about such a man is that while he may hold the same theological views as I do, he is not a liberal. One of the essential characteristics of the liberal mind is absolute sincerity. And the last mark of the liberal mind, is courage. Enough courage to have all the other marks. Cowardice is poor material to make a liberal of. Indifferentists and sneerers and ridiculers may be formed out of cowardice, but not liberals. Only a brave person will dare, in the face of all obstacles, to insist upon unqualified freedom both for oneself and others. Only a brave person will dare keep one's mind open for the consideration of every new problem which comes up. Only a brave person will dare to be broad and sympathetic and understanding when all the world is condemning. Only a brave person will dare search down to the very roots of things when others are accepting the dictums of the church and the state and the college. Only a brave person will dare to be sincere when it is advantageous to be insincere. And that is why courage must be included in the qualifications which mark the liberal mind. Some are afraid of being too liberal, but I do not think anyone can be too liberal. Not in the right sense of the word. No one can be too open-minded, too free, too broad, too inquiring, too sincere, too brave. People learn to love genuine liberals wherever they go, just as they learn to despise counterfeit liberals wherever they go. They despise counterfeits because they are counterfeits, and because all they accomplish is to divide and destroy. They love the genuine because they are genuine, and because all they say and do tends to carry the world forward to a better day, to a clearer light, a larger charity, a growing peace on earth and goodwill toward all. We as a group of people gathering here from Sunday to Sunday call ourselves liberals. Liberalism is supposed to be the prevailing temper and purpose of our congregation. The question that concerns us all is, are we true to this purpose and temper? Are we liberals of the genuine type or of the make-believe type? I trust we are genuine. If we are not, then we must make ourselves such. And we can make ourselves such by being truly free, truly open-minded, truly broad and sympathetic, truly inquiring, truly sincere, and truly brave. For it is these things that make us truly liberal. Thank you.
Well, the ideas of our closing hymn actually come from that 1800s era. And I found it very interesting. It's a questioning hymn. It has 5 questions, and they are basically religious, traditional questions. But the answers come from religious humanism. So please rise to sing the hymn with me, "Where is Our Holy Church?"
As we close today, I send you out now to share yourself with the world. May its promise and complexity set your mind ablaze. May you hold fast to what your life has taught you. May you question everything. And when you have changed the world and the world has changed you, may you return again to this place and share what you have learned with us. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.